with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, and other applicable laws. Tonight's hearing will be conducted in the following manner. The secretary, who is not here, Mr. Zelotes, would you like to be secretary this evening? I will. Will read the legal notice or state that such a notice has been waived. All applications will be heard this evening in the order they were received in the city clerk's office. The petitioner or petitioner's representative will present the subject application to the board. The chair may limit the length of all remarks. All parties in interest will be given an opportunity to speak either in favor or in opposition to a pending application, and the board may receive similar written communications to be placed on the public record. The petitioner will then be given the opportunity to refute any such remarks. I'm going to explain that to you now in language that you'll understand. This is the way it works for anybody that hasn't been here before. So if you are number 3, number 2, we will read your application and your name. You come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and then you tell us why you're here. You need a variance for a garage, an addition, whatever it is, and you give us the reasons why. Please be mindful that you're here for dimensional relief. You are not here to discuss, nor will we listen to, neighborhood chit-chat, such as, my neighbor, I need to put this addition on because my neighbor plays loud music, they park too close to my driveway, their dog barks all night, their leaves fall in my pool. You're here for dimensional relief. We need to know the concrete reasons, and please stick to that subject. If you go off subject, I will do one of these, which means please try to stick to the subject. Especially this evening, we have a long agenda, and so just remember to stick to the subject. The other thing is, you will have plenty of opportunity to state why you're here and your reasons. If your neighbors are here to speak for you, that's great. That they have no opposition to you building an addition or to that you're building a garage, that's great. If you have neighbors that are in opposition, they will state their reasons why. And you can come, after they're done, you can come back up to the podium and try to, answer their concerns. The best and the most productive petitions, applications get approved when you've already spoken to your neighbors. They know exactly what you're doing and why, and you all agree. At that point, after everybody's come up to the podium, said what they had to say, tried to figure things out, we then will ask you questions, obviously, and then we take a vote. Please also be mindful that if we approved everything, there would be no need to have us here. You would just get your application and do whatever you want. So not everything gets approved. If we deny you, we have really good reasons why we deny you. There are laws, zoning regulations that we have to abide by, that we try to stick to, and there is a 20-day appeal period. If you don't like if we deny you, you obviously can hire a lawyer and appeal it, but not everything can get approved. We're a very fair board, fairer than a lot of boards around the surrounding communities. So I don't know why I'm apologizing, but it's not something that we relish in to deny a petition, but it does happen. So then we have the decision. Yes, you're approved. No, you're denied. The decision then is typed and filed with the city clerk. Once the decision is filed with the city clerk, there is a 20-day appeal period. In compliance with the open meeting law, this hearing is also being recorded by our clerk, Ms. Carla McGrath. When you are here at the podium, please speak into the microphone clearly. Speak only when you're at the podium to ensure you are on the record. Oh, that's the other thing. You have plenty of opportunity to come up and say what you have to say. We need to keep order. We need to keep decorum. We do not allow anyone speaking from their seats. That might sound juvenile to you, but it's just the way we do it. So if you have something else to say, you can come up. But don't shout from your seat. Don't shout at your neighbor. It's just not allowed. And now there you have it. That's how we roll. That's how we do it. It works, and I would expect everybody to have a pleasurable experience this evening. But before we begin this evening, zoning board member Barry Osborne is going to read something into the record. I would like everybody to pay very close attention. Very informative and very important. Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. And I did request a couple minutes tonight just to clear up some misconceptions about the 40B hearing for 40 and 42 Endicott Street and some of the allegations that seem to be tossed around willy-nilly regarding how this board has conducted the hearings. The application for 4042 Endicott Street was received by the city clerk on March 26th. From that date, the ZBA has 30 days to open the public hearing, which would have been April 26th. On April 2nd, we received a letter from the applicant requesting that we delay the opening till May 3rd, which was agreed upon that the public hearing would be opened on May 3rd. Unfortunately, because of Zoom, it was a Zoom meeting. But even though the COVID restrictions were in place, the meeting had to be held, or else we would face conditional approval, which means that the project would have been approved and we would have had no say whatsoever, neither the board or the public. It would have been allowed by the courts. The notice of this meeting was properly posted, even though it was at Zoom, at City Hall, which was outside. You did not have to enter City Hall to get the postings. It was the best that we could come up with. The police station, it was put on the City Hall website, and the legal ad ran for this meeting in the Peabody Weekly on April 15th and 22nd. Also, for that first meeting, abutters notices were sent out. So other than that effort, I don't see how this board could have done anything else to advise the residents of this meeting. Additional meetings regarding 40 and 42 Endicott Street were then held in person, June 14th, where correspondence was received and some public comments were heard. July 19th, again, receiving correspondence, and I don't believe there was any public comment to be heard that night. And then we had our last meeting. Did we ever? The September 20 meeting, where we heard a lot of public comment. We received some conversation. There was a presentation made. Now, regarding the presentation, it was bought. Some people were in dismay that we were going to discuss the presentation before the public can be heard. And that's right. Because the guidelines issued by the Massachusetts Housing Partnership entitled the Chapter 40B Handbook for ZBA, in an effort to assist the ZBAs in handling 40B permits, issued certain guidelines. And that's how the chairman chose to run the meetings according to those guidelines, which are: 1, new correspondence is accepted to the record. The developer is invited to present his project. After the developer's presentation, the ZBA members are given time to ask questions. And after the ZBA has asked the questions, the hearing is open to questions and comments from the public, knowing the board and the public must realize that some questions from the public need to be deferred until the ZBA receives their peer review reports. So not all questions can be answered, but that is the order in which we run the meetings. So there was nothing against anybody to say that we discussed it before the public had a chance to discuss it. It's not true. We went by the way we choose to run the meeting. Then the issue of safe harbor was brought up, okay? And all I got to say about safe harbor is this, all right? To assist the ZBA in our decision-making process, the board depends on the expertise of various city department heads and city departments. since there are often deadlines set for initiating various actions, for which the required prerequisite approvals submittals by certain dates, all right? In regards to the 4042 Endicott Street, the board did express our desire to explore the possibility of applying for safe harbor. We were informed by the city department heads, all right, that the deadline was passed and we could not file. The board had absolutely no reason to question the information that was received. Now, you could hear from 1,000 people, oh, they could have done this, they could have done that. We explored it, and we were told we had missed the deadline, we could not apply. And we went by the expert opinions of those who we depend on. So the ZBA is a volunteer citizen board appointed by the mayor. Its purpose is to protect the integrity of the zoning ordinance by carefully scrutinizing requests for dimensional relief before granting waivers that have potential of affecting neighborhoods and the community as a whole. The ZBA is also the permit granting authority for comprehensive permits, 40B. The ZBA is often called upon to make decisions that are very unpopular. We depend on and draw the expertise of all city officials and departments. Matter of fact, it is a requirement that we notify every department head when we get a 40B application for comment. And they all comment to this board their concerns. And that is certainly taken into account when decision-making time comes. We take our responsibilities very seriously and follow the outlined rules, making our decisions based strictly on how we interpret the information and the facts that are presented to us. We realize that some decisions are subject to criticism and that everyone has the right of their opinion. However, what the board cannot and will not tolerate is disruptive and abusive behavior, personal slurs, innuendos that are not based on fact, disruption of meeting by applicants or their representatives, members of the general public, or by public officials who, by the way, would not tolerate such actions at their meetings, will no longer be tolerated. They have no place at the ZBA. We welcome all views and opinions. We offend when presented, in a respectful and professional manner. Let's put this behavior we exhibited last month behind us and move forward for the betterment of the city. Thank you for the time to read that.
Thank you very much. Very well said. We'll now move on to the regular scheduled meeting. Number 1 is a continued application of Spiro DeMarcus, care of Attorney Kelty, and I have the letter here from Attorney John Kelty.
So it's a letter dated October 7, 2021, addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals, City of Peabody, attention Carla McGrath, regarding 8 Bourbon Street. Dear Ms. McGrath, I represent Spiro J. DeMarcus, trustee, with respect to an application for variance at 8 Bourbon Street. Please accept this letter as my request that the matter be continued from October 18, 2021 to the meeting scheduled for November 15, 2021. Thank you for your cooperation on this matter. Very truly yours, John R. Kelty, Esquire.
Motion to accept the correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's see. We will now move to number 2. Nelson Pacheco, 145 Russell Street.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. 01960 on the application of Nelson Pacheco for the variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 145 Russell Street, Peabody, Mass. map 004, lot 073. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct a farmer's porch and requires relief to front yard setback, where 25 feet is required and 21.8 feet is proposed. The property is located in R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available for the public to review and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@peabody-mass.gov or 978-538-5792 in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for this meeting is posted on the City of Peabody website.
I just want to, sorry, before you begin, I just want to make note that the application, this one and any others this evening, and plans are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Ms. McGrath at her email or at 978-538-5792. So if there is anything that anybody does need, you can always call the zoning board clerk, Ms. Carla McGrath, and she will oblige you. Okay, you're on.
How you doing? I'm Nelson Pacheco.
And Riley Fadden of 145 Russell.
Thank you.
Applying for I think 3 feet variance for the front porch. The hardship being that that's the front of our house. We can't move it back further.
That's cute. Yes?
Madam Chairwoman, through you, what exists in that spot right now, if anything? Where the porch is going to go?
There's a flower bed built in that goes to about 4 feet.
So there's no stairs there or anything? Okay,
Nope.
thank you.
Any other questions by the board? Want to shut that off for now? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Tilted floors. Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
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 Yes, you've been approved. Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Yep. Number 3. Angelo Pereira, care of Attorney Kelty.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. 01960, on the application of Angela Perina, care of Attorney John Kelty, for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended, Section 7.2 and Section 9, as it applies to the premises known as 3 Bourbon Street, Peabody, Mass. Map 036, Lot 021. Petitioner seeks a variance to construct an addition and outdoor dining area to Toscana Restaurant and requires relief to side yard where 40 feet is required and 35 feet is proposed, parking where 118 spaces are required and 71 spaces are proposed. The property is located in a BR zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath in advance and prior to the public hearing. The agenda for the meeting is posted on the City of Peabody website.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Kelty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts. I'm appearing this evening on behalf of Angelo Perina, who is here this evening with me. He and his family operate Toscana Restaurant. They have been, I just asked my client how long they were there. Surprisingly, they've been there for 12 years. And this past year, they, in compliance, in cooperation with licensing board and various boards in the city, they opened an outdoor dining area. And what I've tried to explain on my application is that this is additional indoor dining. It'll be essentially, it shows on the plan that we filed, the addition we are seeking requires We're asking for a variance for a side yard of 35 feet where 40 feet is required. We are already actually bumped out for a refrigerator, which is a walk-in attached to the exterior of the building, accessible from the interior, and you gave a variance for that several years ago, and I conferred with the building commissioner, and he was of the opinion that the bump out on that side yard would be, there would be a new one needed, which one of the reasons we're here this evening. Most of the area that is now outdoor dining will be absorbed by this new addition. The zoning commissioner had also asked that I provide an analysis of parking, which has not been an historic problem on our site, but I had filed that analysis with my petition. There will continue to be some outdoor dining, which will be as you exit the restaurant. It'll be on the right-hand side, a very small area, which will be seasonal, and then the left hand side, where there is currently indoor dining, will be entirely enclosed, and will provide an additional 28 seasonal seats, and zoning requires 95 spaces for 286 seats, which we have 71 that exist on the property. I did an analysis of what the personal service space, a salon that's there, they would seem to require 17 spaces based on their square footage. I did not know what the chair count was, so I did it by square footage. They don't come nearly close to, they're all entirely by appointment, as most salons are, so they don't utilize anywhere close to their 17 spaces. And then there's a storage facility to the rear that has offices in this building, and they are requiring 2 spaces for a caretaker. I'm not certain that they have a caretaker. And then they need 4 spaces. They have 6 spaces which are required, and they don't come close to even utilizing those spaces. They park and run their business from the facility and park on the side. They actually even park not even in the 71 spaces that are outlined on the property. So we're seeking 2 variances. One is for the side yard, one is for parking. We're asking for 71 spaces where a pure zoning analysis would suggest that 118 spaces are required. We have not heard from our neighbors anything in the negative. Our relationship is generally very good with our neighbors, and we have no expectation of negative testimony, and we have also provided you with a architect's rendering of what the new space will look like. I believe it'll be a welcome addition to the area where there have been some other buildings redone, and there's generally a recent facelift to the Bourbon Street area and to the Lowell Street Plaza being undertaken by Mr. Yeba. And we're happy to answer questions that the board may have this evening with respect to this project, and Mr. Perina is here this evening if you have any questions directly for him. Thank you very much.
So, it seems that you're under the impression, because of the other businesses around, that parking won't be a problem.
We are. Yes, we are of that impression.
So
Correct.
from 118 to 71 is 47 spaces
Short?
short?
That's what the math is, yes.
So
It's
Could you-
19
could
and
you
18, so what's that?
could,
38, 37, yeah. This is Angelo Perina.
buonasera.
How are you? ¿Cómo está?
So, do you ever have a problem with parking?
No, not really.
Really?
Really. No, we have, luckily where we are at night, there's like no other utilization, so we park in our spot. We have a good relationship with our neighbor in case there is the need for overflow, but has not been an issue.
So are you more busy at night than during the day?
Yeah, much more, yeah.
And during the evening hours, some of those other businesses aren't even open?
Yeah, none of them are actually.
So, and never a problem in the afternoon, even if you have holiday parties or whatever?
No, never. I mean, during Christmas time sometimes, but not anything that deters business or anything like that.
So has anyone ever had to park on Bourbon Street
No.
ever?
On Bourbon Street, no.
You've always been able to, even with 47 spaces minus, you're confident that you won't have a problem?
No, 100%. 100% confident.
Just through the chair, I think I missed it, Attorney Kelty, but how many people sit outside in these outdoor areas that are going to be converted to indoor?
How many seats are going to be
Yeah.
outside?
I think there's like,
The addition is going to yield 58 additional seats.
Okay. And how many seats are on the inside without that? Do you know?
Currently, there's about 200 indoor seating at present.
Okay. If,
That's inclusive of a function room,
right,
which is on occasion used for overflow dining.
okay. And these additional 58 seats outside, those are the ones that have been going since sometime in early 2020?
Yes.
Okay. And that's just going to be converted and covered up into made part of the inside?
essentially, yeah.
It's the same space, yes, you're correct, with the
Okay.
same yield of tables.
Okay. Okay. Those are the only questions I had. Thanks.
Through the chair, I just need to express my concerns over the parking, because maybe, Angela, you don't realize just how successful you are, because I have a very hard time getting a parking spot when I go. But the food's very good, I will say that. You seem to be handling it okay at night now, and I think the chairperson did a good job of saying that the other businesses not being open does open up more parking to you during your busy hours, so I think it's a good thing. I like the idea that more restaurants are doing outdoor dining, so I think it's a good project, so thank you.
Through the chair, this is pretty much the exact same footprint where the outside dining is, right? And, you know, we all eat there. First of all, congratulations on that success. You've actually operated your outdoor dining very successfully. That's kind of a model. But, yeah, I don't see a problem if it's the exact same footprint, because it's there 5.5 months a year, so.
Any other questions or comments by the board? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
Motion to approve?
Roll call vote, please.
Second. Yes.
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 Yes, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members.
Thank you.
On to number 4, Mark Mancinelli.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. 01960, on the application of Margaret Schambarger, care of Mark Mancinelli, for a variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance of 2019 as amended, Section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 4 Hillside Ave, Peabody, Mass. Map 120, Lot 86A. Petitioner seeks a variance to build a deck and requires relief to right side yard, where 15 feet is required and 9.2 feet is proposed. The property is located in the R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath at carla.mcgrath@peabody.gov or calling her in advance. Prior to the public hearing, the agenda for the meeting is posted on the City of Peabody website.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Schambarger, and I am the property owner. I can take this off? Oh, okay, sorry. I'm the property owner for the premises at 4 Hillside Avenue. I've been living there for 41 years as of yesterday. Brought my children up there, and when I retired, I started babysitting and had lots of little ride-on toys in the backyard. Now, the kids are all grown. We would like to put a deck on the backyard so that we don't have to go up and down the stairs to enjoy the outdoors, to cook on our grill. And our property, when it was built, was 9.2 feet from the property next door abutting us, and our deck is not going to be any closer than what the home is. So we just want a deck off the back, no closer than the property next door, and that's what we're applying for today.
That seems reasonable. Any questions, comments? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second. Yes.
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 Painless? Yes.
Yes.
You're approved.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Number 5.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. 01960, on the application of Chris Leduc, care of Joe Foreman, for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 9 Ravenwood Road, Peabody, Mass., map 100, lot 077. Petitioner seeks a variance to build a deck and requires relief to left side yard where 20 feet is required and 16 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath in advance of the meeting. The agenda for this meeting is posted on the City of Peabody website.
Hi, thank you. Name's Chris Leduc. I live at 9 Ravenwood Road, and we want to actually replace an old deck. We have an existing deck on our house today that's just was there when we bought the house. It was very old, so we want to replace that and make it a little bit bigger toward the back, but maintain the same side distance as the current deck is now, which is over, as you see from the information, is over the setback line. So that's what we're proposing.
Any other questions, comments? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing. A motion to approve.
Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Thank you very much.
Number 6.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. 01960, on the application of Richard and Teresa Reed, care of Penny Construction, for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended, section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 6 Ethel Road, Peabody, Mass., map 084, lot 110. Petitioner seeks a variance to build a deck and requires relief to the right side yard setbacks, where 10 feet is required and 6.2 feet is proposed. The property is located in an R2 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath in advance of the hearing. The agenda is posted on the City of Peabody website.
Good evening. Teresa Reed. I'm the owner of 6 Ethel Avenue. We're seeking a variance to the building code in order to build a deck off the rear of our house. The variance would be 6 foot 2 inches, which is consistent with the exterior wall of the existing house. There's also front stairs and rear stairs that are the same setback. So we're just looking to extend the line of that setback another approximately 8 feet from what's existing. We have spoken to that right side neighbor, and he has signed off on his approval, which I believe you have as well in your packet.
Questions, comments? Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? In opposition? Hearing none, the matter is before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing. Motion to approve.
Call vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Appreciate your time.
Number 7.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. on the application of 437 Essex Street, Inc., care of Attorney Patrick Burke for a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended Section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 15 Oak Ave, Peabody, Mass., map 114, lot 048. Petitioner seeks a variance to build a deck and requires relief to the right side yard where 20 feet is required and 10.5 feet is proposed. Rear yard where 35 feet is required and 23.5 feet is proposed. The property is located in R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath prior to the hearing, and the agenda is posted on the website.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Burke. I represent 437 Essex and Bass River, Inc. 437 owns the property, and Bass River leases the property. Bass River is in the business of providing housing and work experiences for developmentally delayed adults. They've been doing this for 45 years, and 437 is basically the holding company that owns the property and leases, as is the practice of Department of Developmentally Disabled. What we're seeking to do is, with me is Larry Lusignan, who is the executive director of Bass River. And what we're seeking to do is provide new decking as part of a project of putting on the new addition 10 by 15 in the back. And it involves a ramp, a turnaround on the deck, and then extending it over. And the issue then became on the back line from the back end of the deck, 23.5 to the back line, and on the sideline it's 10.5 on the left. The reason for this, why it's necessary, is as the residents become older, their needs become greater, mobility is very important. And so with wheelchairs, ramps are necessary, and then turnaround areas. And this will provide very good access to this new room, which is a community room, which the house very much needs. So it's a large lot, but this is all occurring on the more narrower portion of the lot. So because of the configuration of the lot, we're seeking the variance before you.
Through the chair. I do see what you're talking about there, how that back left corner does angle in pretty severely compared to the right.
Yeah.
And I presume this couldn't have been put on the other side of the property.
It just wouldn't work for access. The parking is on the left as you're looking at the scheme where the vans pull in.
And that's where the ramp needs to go.
And there's already an existing pathway to the back, and that's the usual ingress and egress.
Through the chair, if I could. When you say the vans can come in, now, do clients from outside of the people who live in this dwelling come into this community room? Is that the idea?
Not necessarily. That wouldn't necessarily be the only way to get into the home. The main entrance is on the front right, but it's a nice option for people to be outside in nicer weather and also have an additional egress that's going to be more handicapped accessible from the back. So it's not mandatory as an entryway, but it's a nice spot to have, and it's an option. DDS requires us to have multiple points of evacuation for fire safety, and you have to have unobstructed, access and those kinds of things to meet regulations around fire evacuation.
Okay, no, I don't have any problem with it. I was just didn't understand, the use of a community room. I thought it was used for people who live in other places to come in and use this room, but it's basically
No,
for the
not
clients.
necessarily. It's for the
that we-
residents within the home, and it's just additional space so that they can be not so much on top of each other. There's really not a lot of common space besides bedrooms. It's to give them an opportunity for that.
Okay, thank you.
And there is no other area to build what you want? I mean, this is it?
Not to get the benefit to access that community room where it has to go.
Anybody in the audience to speak in favor? Opposition? Matters before the board.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, you've been approved.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Number 8.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold the public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application of Kevin Baez and Ramona Champa for the variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended, section 7.2 and 7.1.5, as it applies to the premises known as 14 Dublin Road, Peabody. Petitioner seeks a variance to build an accessory structure and an addition and requires relief to accessory structure right side yard, where 10 feet is required and 5 feet is proposed. Accessory structure where 500 square feet is permitted and 864 square feet is proposed. Addition rear yard setback where 35 feet is required and 28.9 is proposed. The property is located in R1 district. Application and plan are available to the public, can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath in advance of the hearing, and is available on the city website.
Before you begin, could you, I can't exactly read your writing, do you have your application? Could you please read what you wrote for describe the hardship?
It's a Capanelli slab with no basement or attic space for storage. The garage and additional living space will not deteriorate from the characteristics of the existing neighborhood or cause substantial thank you, to the public good.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'm Ramona Champa, 14 Dublin, 50% owner of the property.
Kevin Baez, owner of the 50% of 14 Dublin Road in Peabody as well. We're asking for a variance for the two structures. In addition, on the back of the house, there's an existing deck there, which is 16 by 20 as we speak. So we're asking, we're going to remove that deck, put an addition 12 by 18, go out 12 feet. 18 is the existing width of the existing structure. The garage, 24 by 36. And like Ramona said, we don't have any storage. We just don't want to be the neighbors. We want to add to the neighborhood, not take away from the neighborhood, and have things all over the yard.
So you want a very large garage for
And
storage of cars?
I have two older cars, antique cars, and then for storage, lawnmowers, just
Well, it's a
overflow.
Structure for 2 cars and lawnmowers. You're asking for a lot. I think that it is not in conformity with everything else in your neighborhood. I have a few friends that live on that street, and I have been by. And you are asking for quite a bit of variance, and I cannot
An awful lot.
be for this whatsoever, but I am only one vote.
Can,
If I just may through the chair real quick. This is, you're kind of in an unfortunate position where similar garages have come before us a number of times over the last, probably, it all kind of blends together, probably the last like 12 to 14 months. And when they come in this large, it's not so much the 24 feet wide, we understand the width issue, at least from my perspective. A lot of it, I don't care about the 5 feet from the side. There seems to be a good justification from that. The issue is more with the 36-foot depth, which just creates a very large structure. And we have brought this up to other applicants over the last several, I think the last 2 or 3 meetings even. So a lot of times what we'll do here is we'll invite you to say, this is a little too big, at least from my perspective, to approve. And that we would, at least I would probably, I can't recommend anything, but I would certainly consider thinking about revising the size of it, especially that depth, to see if you can find something else that's smaller, that makes it work for you still.
The deck was...
I mean, not deck, the garage I meant, not the deck.
garage,
Yeah,
okay.
not the addition, the deck, yeah, not the addition, the garage is the...
But we don't mean just a few feet, we mean really scaling this down, really scaling it down.
Can we do 24 by 24? Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Have to think this over. You really have to think this over because it's really, really large. This is a variance that is above and beyond. I don't want to give you my personal feelings. It's not appropriate, but you really need to either go for a vote tonight or go home. We'll continue this. Think about it. Think about what you really need, what you really want, and what is within the zoning laws. And then if you want to come back, what is that? And try it again. It's up to you, but you really need to think hard about this one.
What are our options, I'm sorry?
Yeah, to put it on hold and think about it.
Right, so basically you would have an option of going forward tonight, risking a no, which would be a problem.
Okay.
Or you can continue to the next meeting and then make sure you get everything to Carla that you would need for a new plan and everything prior to that.
So is that on the additional living space, or is that included?
I think, well, I'm just speaking just towards the garage more than anything.
Through the chair. There looks like there's already an accessory structure too. It's a shed. What does that shed get used for? This would be the second, the garage technically would be a second accessory structure.
Yeah, exactly, yes, it would. It would be to park vehicles and
Well, I'm sorry, what does the shed get used for currently?
the shed there is lawn furniture and the lawnmower. And, so.
Suggestion is you think about everything. Continue this till next month, or if you don't want to, we can take a vote tonight. But I think you should think about the whole ball of wax.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll continue. Put on hold.
So we'll make a motion to continue.
Favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9.
Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the City of Peabody will hold a public hearing Monday, October 18, 2021 at 7 p.m. at the Wigan Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application of Gervaslo and Telma Del Orto, care of Leandro Foresto, for the variance from the provisions of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2, as it applies to the premises known as 30 Tremont Street, Peabody, Mass., map 075, lot 112. Petitioner seeks a variance to build an addition and requires relief to left side yard where 15 feet is required and 3.1 is proposed. Rear yard where 35 feet is required and 26.9 is proposed. Lot coverage where 30% is allowed and 31.9% is proposed. The property is located in R1 zoning district. The application and plan are available to the public and can be viewed by contacting Carla McGrath prior to the public hearing, and the agenda is posted on the Peabody website. So this is correspondence we've received. Dear Chairperson Francisca Luigi and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, we are writing to voice our opposition to the application of Gervaslo and Telma Del Orto, care of Leandro Foresto, requesting a variance from the provision of the zoning ordinance 2019 as amended section 7.2 as it applies to the premises located at 30 Tremont Street, Peabody, Mass, map 075, lot 112. We are the owners and residents of the property that directly abut to the left, located at 28 Tremont Street, Peabody, Mass, and their map 075, lot 111. We are opposing to this application due to the concerns listed below. Said addition would infringe on the privacy of our backyard, negatively affecting our quality of life, as we'd like to utilize this space for dining, gardening, and relaxing. Said addition is expected to have negative effect on our property value, as the addition would be bordering our property line. Plans for said addition are vague, as the owner has come to inquire on our position on several occasions with letters asking for signatures without a building plan or permit. On one occasion, we were told that there would be no windows facing our property, and then were given a letter that stated that there would be windows and asked for a signature. Additionally, we were informed there would only be a bedroom and bathroom, and now building plans show an office, bedroom, bathroom, and a large master closet. In the future, said addition could potentially be turned into a rental property for non-family members. Said addition would negatively affect the already problematic parking situation for the residents of Tremont Street and Tremont Place, as it is the property located at 30 Tremont Street has a lack of parking spaces for its current residents, resulting in cars being parked on the Tremont Street sidewalk and on Tremont Place, making the road nearly impassable. Maintenance of said addition is a concern, as the current property is poorly maintained with overgrown vegetation and dilapidated structures. We are residents of more than 40 years who take great pride in our property and neighborhood. We ask that you take our concerns into profound consideration when voting to approve or deny this application. Thank you for your attention. Delminda Vega and Melanie Poole, trustee of the Antonio and Delminda Vega Life Estate.
Good evening. My name is Thelma Del Orto. First of all, I'm sorry about my English, and I give the talk to my son-in-law because my English so little.
Good evening. I'm Daryl Perez. We're at 30 Tremont. As she mentioned, I'm her son-in-law. This is my wife, Rebecca, her daughter. We're proposing the extension because my wife and I had to move into the home due to COVID reasons and my loss of job, unemployment. So we're facing financial hardship. The home is currently, there's 6 persons in the home, and one of those 6 being our infant son, 2.5 months old. And we're looking for an extension with the stated variations in the back of the house so that my wife and I could live in the room in that extension. The added office was always mentioned in the proposed letters to my knowledge, and that is primarily for telework purposes. And it wouldn't be, I guess, a hindrance on the neighbors in that sense because it'd be directly off of the entrance within the extension. There's no window there. Secondly, if the window mentioned in the extension's bathroom were to be an issue or a concern of the neighbors, we'd of course be willing to remove that window. However, that concern was never addressed to us. We were advised by the neighbors at 28 that their attorney advised them not to sign anything due to the nature that their husband passed away. Okay. Okay, fair enough. Yes, so we were advised that their attorney advised them not to sign the letter.
Okay, so it's, I went by this property, and it's tight. It's really, really, really tight. You state here in your letter that you are going to live in that space.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of people living in that house. I'm wondering if you would rather try to go for a Fowler. I mean, it seems like you are actually going, you need your own space in that house. You need your own living area.
So that's certainly, of course, been a consideration. However, as I'd mentioned, I'm without employment, and you know, it's been difficult for quite some time.
Well, a Fowler is a building. I mean, it's an additional, it's a living space, which sounds like that's exactly what you're going to do. You're going to live in this space.
Okay.
Coupled with the fact that, so you are above, you're above the lot coverage. You are, your left side yard is, what you're proposing and what is required is tight, very tight, very tight.
Right.
I just think that
Are you referencing the 4-foot variance?
I'm referencing that what I witnessed, what I saw on your property and where you want to build it, I just don't see how it could happen. I personally just don't see how it can happen. I think you want to put a round peg in a square hole. It just, to me, just doesn't work. It's just too much, way too congested. That's my opinion.
Through the chair, if I could, I also went by the place, and unfortunately, you know, sometimes you just run out of room. You know, it just, the lot just is not, in my opinion, big enough to support. You've got the shed, what, 2 sheds, is it? 2 sheds?
2 small sheds, yes.
2 small sheds. You got an existing deck, but you're going to take down the deck and add an addition, which is going to be more of a problem there.
I'm sorry, you lost me there. You mentioned take down the deck.
right?
There will be no removal of a deck.
Oh, so,
Keep the
Yeah.
deck.
Oh, I
Yes,
thought I read
the
somewhere you're gonna
extension
remove
wouldn't
the
be in any way, shape, or form obstructing the deck.
I know that, I know you're feeling like,
No, not at all.
Uh-oh.
I'm quite used to this, actually, so.
oh, well, so the fact of the matter is you are you're just asking for too much. You're asking too much according to the zoning laws and regulations.
Okay.
But once again, I'm only one vote.
if you, through the chair, I guess, you know, I think it's too much also, okay? But, I mean, and plus, we've got a letter from a neighbor in opposition, and that weighs heavy on the board, especially when we get into situations where we know it's going to be very, very, very tight.
Understood.
So I would have a very difficult time as is. Like the last applicant, if you think you could sit down with that neighbor and scale this project back to something that's acceptable to both the board and to that neighbor, we would certainly give you that opportunity. But I will be honest with you and tell you that as it is right now, I would have a very difficult time voting for this.
Okay, so if I may, scaling it back, for example, moving the variance rather than keeping it to the left and,
Yeah.
and shifting the extension more to the middle of the yard
Right.
towards the sheds, or perhaps moving one of the sheds, that could possibly be an option.
That could help.
Okay.
I mean, there's no guarantee, but I mean...
Obviously.
But to me, to be honest with you, you know, making peace with that neighbor is probably your number one priority in my book, so...
Okay, fair enough. We'll go back and reevaluate, and then come back at another time.
So I'll make a motion, based upon that, I'll make a motion to continue.
Any opposed? Okay, Ms.
Thank you.
So, we are now up to our special meeting, which is the continued application of the residents at 40 to 42 Endicott Street. At this point, I was going to have Mr. Osborne read his statement again, but I'm going to leave that up to you. You're, okay? All right, then. So we are... Oh, we're going to... 2-minute break.
camera's right there. It's up to you. Well, we usually traditionally set it up here by the podium. It's up to you. I just want the board and people to crowd in and be able to see. Well, what about this microphone? Does it travel? Whoops.
Okay, everybody, we are now ready for our last but not least this evening, the continued application of 40 to 42 Endicott Street. Before we begin, we have some correspondences that we need to accept for the record.
Okay, so the following correspondence, we'll be looking for a motion to accept into the record. In October 6, 2021, Attorney Panos responds to Stacy Burnson memo. October 4, 2021, Hayes Engineering cover letter. September 29, 2021, Hayes Engineering water and wastewater responses. 9/29/21, Hayes Engineering stormwater and environmental responses. 9/29/21, Hayes Engineering groundwater mounting calculations. 9/29/21, Hayes Engineering revised preliminary site plans. 9/28/21, BKA architectural, and 10/18/21, Will Pollitt's memo. I'll make a motion to accept this correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All set? Okay. Mr. Panos, it's all yours.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. I represent the applicant. The residence is at Endicott LLC. The matter before this board is an application for a comprehensive permit under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40B, and supporting regulations at 760 CMR 56, proposing initially 68 rental apartment dwelling units at the property 4042 Endicott Street, which is located in the Residence 1A zoning district. The application for a little background was filed with the city clerk on March 26th. The hearing was opened on May 3rd and continued to September 20th, and again continued through tonight. The project team with me this evening is Mr. Pacheco, who is the manager of the applicant, and through Tedisco Properties LLC is the property developer, consultant, and contractor. Mr. Tony Capichetti is also with me from Hayes Engineering, and he's the project manager, and we'll discuss the technical aspects of the development, including stormwater management, conservation, traffic, and project plans. A couple of administrative things, if I may, through the chair. We have a fair number, probably approaching 30 people in support of this application. You'll be relieved to know that not all 30 people want to speak on the application. However, I think because many of them are here for the first time, would like to just perhaps come up through your instruction to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and indicate their support.
So you want to do that before you tell us about your changes?
I would not. I think you should perhaps, I recommend that you do it at the appropriate time when you call for public testimony.
Yeah, we'll do it after.
Yeah, perfect. The other administrative matter you accepted into the record, which was my letter in response to Community Development's August 6th memorandum. I addressed a couple of those items at the last hearing on September 20th, but I go into pretty much great detail to support the basis of what I indicated there. I'd like to just summarize for the record what is in that letter without going into the detail. You can read, it's in the record. But there were two issues that were raised by community development at the time. The first, and I'm going to take them out of order, was that recommendation that the affordability restrictions be kept in perpetuity. And I indicated at that last hearing that we would have no problem doing that with a caveat within the parameters of law that if zoning changes and would make by right the proposed project, obviously the affordability restrictions go away. That's the status of the law, that if we would not need this comprehensive permit to build this at some time in the future, that's basically the way 40B works. All the restrictions go away. It's a by right project at that point. But if that never happens, then we would agree to the restrictions in perpetuity. The second issue had to do with creating various levels, basically a deeper level of affordability than that we proposed and that which was approved at the project eligibility stage through Mass Housing, the subsidizing agency. And I indicated then, but did some research on the matter, and there were some decisions that came out of the Housing Appeals Committee, which is the deciding judicial board on appeals to decisions or denials by zoning boards of appeal. And there was a very important case that came out earlier this year in March that pretty much definitively established the primacy of the subsidizing agency, in this case Mass Housing, to determine certain things. That doesn't mean that the board can't discuss those things, can't ask questions. Doesn't mean I necessarily have to answer the questions, but you know, in a free flow, all they say is that the board would exceed its jurisdiction if they conditioned a decision on the basis of things already determined at the project eligibility stage. And one of those things is if the board expanded the levels of affordability as were requested in a given development, as was requested by community development. So you may recall that community development recommended that a certain number of units be set aside for people earning at 50% of the area median income, when we are proposing that all our affordable units be affordable to people earning at 80% of the area median income. I said then, and I'll say again, that we do not agree with that community development recommendation. It was determined and established at the project eligibility stage that the development we put forward with the levels of affordability that we've offered were acceptable, taking into consideration the municipal comments that were offered at the time. And Mass Housing found, and I gave you the project eligibility letter, which was in your application packet initially, but they found that the project is eligible under the New England Fund Subsidy Program, which is what the development is being proposed under, and at least 25% of the units will be available to households earning at or below 80% of the area median income adjusted for household size, as published by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. And consistent with those past HAC Housing Appeals Committee decisions, and in accordance with 760 CMR 5605 8C, the board shall not impose any condition that deviate from the project eligibility requirements of the subsidizing agency, or that would require the project to provide more low or moderate income housing units than the minimum threshold required by the department's guidelines. Considerations regarding levels of affordability and the percent of affordable units are left to the subsidizing agency, in this case, Mass Housing exclusively. The board, given that context, would exceed its jurisdiction if it imposed a condition requiring that project units be affordable to households earning at 50% area median income after Mass Housing determined, pursuant to its project eligibility letter, that the proposed project is consistent with and reflects the affordable rent levels under the New England Fund. As a condition would almost certainly be stricken, as such a condition would almost certainly be stricken under Housing Appeals Committee review. So that's all. I mean, we addressed it before. It was enough of an issue that I felt it necessary to address it through my correspondence, and that's all I have to say about it, unless you obviously have questions. And with that, I'd like to go into the other correspondence and the plan changes that, that we're going to propose tonight. So we listened pretty carefully at a lot of the abutter comments that, that were presented on September 20th. And that's our role. That's what we're supposed to do. And we're supposed to call out those comments that help make our proposed development better. And in this case, we think we've done that. Because we've reduced our density, which was one of the issues that came up, by almost 10%, from 68 units to 62 units. This is accomplished by shrinking the top floor to half its size and orienting that floor toward the rear of the building, creating another opportunity for open space amenity on the roof forward toward Endicott Street. So if you can picture it, and you'll see the renderings, the top floor is oriented away toward the rear of the building, away from Endicott Street. We now accommodate one parking space per bedroom, as requested by the city's peer review, and at a ratio of over 1.5 spaces per unit without reliance on the use of compact spaces. Every parking space we propose is a full-size parking space at 9 by 18 with appropriate aisle widths. We also propose, after listening to comments from the board, on-street parking spaces that cut out away from Endicott Street a little bit into the sidewalk without disturbing the sidewalk area for pedestrian access. And we propose those spaces for pickup and drop-off, as I said, as requested by the board. So among the benefits of these changes to neighbors, particularly immediate abutters, are that the existing structures on Endicott Street are oriented, that is, those abutting properties, actually most properties along Endicott Street, are oriented toward Endicott Street. And the adjustment will have a positive impact with a reduced massing effect on those neighbors because the top floor is oriented behind them, not on top of them, toward the rear of the proposed building. And for technical reasons, you'll hear the fewer units reduce strain on city infrastructure and traffic. So with that, I'd like to just briefly go over a little more detail on the development itself. Tony, I don't know if you want to follow and try to just flip the pages a little bit, and you're going to go over more of the engineering aspects of what we're talking about. Can everybody see this? I don't know how to... Well, but then they can't see it. Whoops. How about if we put it back there?
Madam Chair, could we take a 2-minute recess so that they can
Yeah,
walk
absolutely.
by the presentation?
Do you want to do that after the presentation?
Yeah.
All right. Is that okay with you guys?
To be honest, it should have been up prior to, so we could have looked at it.
Well, in any event, we're doing the best we can. We tried to do something electronically, but that's okay. Yeah. And can you guys see it on the board with it oriented that way? I mean, actually, everything presented up there, you have in your application packets in full size, so you're more than obviously welcome to spread out your plans. Is that good? Awesome. Excellent. Well, it's as good as we can do. All right, so the basic building structure hasn't changed as it was proposed. It's still a single pedestal style building with 4 stories of residences above an on-grade and substructure parking garage, containing now 62 units of rental apartment style housing instead of 68. 16 apartment units are now proposed designated as affordable, and 46 units are proposed designated at market rates to be determined. Note the unit reduction comes at the expense primarily of the market rate units, with only 1 affordable unit loss as a result of the reduction, while 5 market rate units are lost. The unit breakdown is as follows. We propose 41 bedroom, 15 2-bedroom, and 7 3-bedroom units. We do not compromise with the design change by any stretch. Sustainable design strategies and include the integration of proposed exterior finishes featuring natural products such as fiber cement panels, masonry, and glass. All heating and ventilation, air conditioning equipment, and appliances for each unit will carry Energy Star certifications, and the development will seek certification as an Energy Star building designation. That has not changed. I mentioned parking. An increase to 92 parking spaces are proposed from the original 88 spaces, with 4 accessible spaces total. 78 spaces and 4 accessible spaces are located under the building as proposed. So those accessible spaces and 74 apartment resident spaces are located inside. The remaining 10 spaces are located at grade to the rear of the building. The proposed development parking ratio is over 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit, and I think members of Lotus raised this as an issue, and this was also raised in peer review. And we accommodate, per the peer review recommendations, more than 1 space, parking space per bedroom as requested. The development is pursued under Mass Housing's rental program, requiring in part, as I indicated, a minimum of 25% of construction financing be obtained through the Federal Home Loan Bank New England Fund. That means that 25% of the units must be subject to affordability restrictions to ensure that they remain in the city's affordable housing stock and must be rented on an open and fair basis to those earning at or below 80% HUD area median income, as approved by through the project eligibility letter. All 68 units will count toward the city's subsidized housing inventory, And as I indicated, we've agreed to that restriction in perpetuity. 62 units now. We are reducing from 68 to 62 units. They will all still count toward the SHI. That is that 10%, that elusive 10% number that the community has been trying back and forth. They've slipped in and out of over the past even months. The residences at Endicott, as I indicated when we opened the hearing in May, and I will indicate again, is not subsidized housing. It is a mix of market rate and affordable housing designed to assist city residents earning at or below 80% of the area median income. That income bracket includes starting teachers, fire prevention, police officers, nurses, and other critical frontline workers. And the residences at Endicott will designate 70% of these affordable units for local preference, the maximum allowed helping to close the affordable housing shortage gap identified in the city's housing production plan. We're ready, unless you have any questions from the board, to go into the technical presentation.
Are you completely done?
I am done with my portion of the introductory presentation, yes.
Okay, good, yep. No, go ahead.
Tony Capichetti with Hayes Engineering, 603 Salem Street in Wakefield, Mass. For the record. I think Jason did a very good job highlighting the changes. Again, architecturally, we took that fourth story above the street and stepped it back considerably. No, I think, okay. Yeah, well. Okay. And we created some usable space, a roof deck area, but that roof deck is also set back from the street, so there's not going to be people looming over the edge and creating privacy issues. So and what we tried to do was kind of, the access stairways still need to extend to the roof, so that gives it kind of a modulated look, so it looks like broken up buildings from the street line, kind of reduces the massing effect. The building itself shifted 5 feet from the property line. Looking at the building to the left, it shifted to the right 5 feet, so that kind of centered it in between the houses to the best available, best of our ability. That also helps with some of the massing. As far as the site changes, we did add 2 on-street spaces and kind of reconfigured the entrance, so the entrance has a little landing area right at those 2 on-street spaces. We'd be more than happy to work with City Council, who has control of traffic and parking, to time limit those spaces. We didn't include those spaces in our parking counts because they're public, but we thought that maybe a 30-minute time restriction for deliveries, drop-offs, packages, that sort of thing would be appropriate, and we'd be more than happy to work that out with City Council if that was something the board would like us to consider. The reason we could only get 2 is the sight lines from the driveway. We couldn't have parked cars within those sight lines. So by the time you look at the sight lines that you need to see down Endicott Street, it really restricts the amount of available parking area in front of the building. But we were able to get 2 compliant spaces out there, which we'd be redoing the granite curb, shifting it towards our site, still an ADA compliant sidewalk. I think it would help with the streetscape as well. We're still maintaining the trees. Those are spaced along the roadway in a manner that doesn't affect the sight lines. So those tree placements were selected carefully to avoid sight line issues. And again, as Jason said, we're in line with what the traffic peer review consultant is looking for parking spaces. Stormwater changes, pretty minimal. We shifted the stormwater location to where we had our test holes. Originally, it was within the current existing building footprint. We just thought it was a good location for it, but we couldn't confirm soils there until the building's demolished. So we did testing on site, in that general vicinity, but they wanted the holes within the stormwater area, so we shifted the stormwater area. That reduced some of the available separation that we had. So we changed from, instead of the larger arches, which are also becoming harder to come by with material shortages, to it's kind of a milk crate style system. It's a high-density plastic that creates a web. So they're very short, like only a foot high, 14 inches, I think. And they're designed for H20 truck traffic to go over. They're fully compliant and tested. But they essentially give you 95% void space under that pavement because of the webbing that's inside. And those are readily available currently, so that's why we made that change. Utilities, not a lot of exciting changes. A lot of them centered around the location of legacy water mains from the old leather factory that was there. We added those to the plans. We found some plans from the early 1900s that documented those. And how we did the tie-in. We had originally proposed tapping sleeve and valves. The water consultant prefers a shutdown, cut in a T, and that type of connection, which we agreed to. We got an all-clear letter from Weston and Sampson. The SOAR, there was really not a lot of comments. They were looking for us to complete an I&I project up to the I&I fee. We agreed to do that project. So we got an all clear from Ty and Bond. The remaining issues are traffic issues, and we've conducted the counts. The study is underway, and we're hoping by the next meeting to have those results presented to the board, and the resulting signage, traffic markings, and that sort of thing will be added to the plan as a result of that study. Thank you.
Okay, so I just have a very quick comment before we continue on with the neighbors. I'm going to ask for people in favor of, do you want some? I'm going to ask for people in favor, if you would like to speak in favor of this project, to come up, state your name and address for the record, and tell us why. There are a lot of you, maybe, I don't know how many are in favor, but let's say half of you are in favor. So if the first 7 people come up and give their reasons why they're in favor, and the next 6 people just agree with that, they don't have anything to add, you can say your name and address for the record and say, I agree with the neighbors that spoke ahead of me, okay? And I just would like to say that it's commendable that we have a project, especially a 40B, where the builder has taken into consideration the neighbors' comments and concerns and has decreased the project, the amount of, yes, I know it's by 6. That has never happened. We don't really have builders that come back and decrease anything, never mind a 40B. So I would just like to say personally, at this point, I'm very happy to see that there have been changes on the decreasing end. That being said, if you are in favor of this project, you may make a line and speak in favor. There you go. Don't be afraid.
My name's Janine LaFawn. I live at 11 Berry Street. I've resided there for 28 years, so I am a direct abutter to the property. Over the course of the 28 years, the property has been deteriorating to the point that it's unconditionable. It's in bad shape. I have spoken several times with Pat Tedesco in regards to the plans that he was proposing. He's been honest, he's been upfront, he's told me all the information that I've needed to know as the project has been progressing all along. Again, he has taken in consideration what the neighbors are requesting at that time. He has made several different adjustments to try to accommodate the neighbors, and I am in favor of this project, and I would be more than happy to see it go through. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Kobe Hernandez. I am a Peabody resident for about 16 years already. I personally know Pacheco. I'm a business owner here in the city of Peabody. I'm a clergyman.
We need your address.
My address, sure, 75 Walnut Street, Peabody. I'm also a business owner here in the city of Peabody, as well as a senior pastor of a local congregation here in the city of Peabody. In addition to that, I have the privilege to hold the title of the Director of Community Health and Social Determinants of Health Programs in Massachusetts. I oversee a team that covers central Massachusetts and the eastern part of the state as well. In that role, I get to work with people that don't have certain privileges that perhaps many of us in this room have. And those are people that cannot afford housing. I want to give you some perspective. In 2020, working together with the state of Massachusetts, we worked very diligently in making sure that people who were at risk for contracting COVID-19 because of the housing situation, they had a place to live. I want to just bring into perspective what does it mean to have 25% of all these units available for affordable housing. Perhaps for many of us in this room, it doesn't hit home, but it does for me. Because every day I'm responsible for more than 40,000 individuals across the state of Massachusetts to make sure that their social needs are being met. And I want to speak to you that housing has been, for several years, the #1 social need of people of low income. It's important for you to understand this because otherwise you will see this 25% of those units for affordable housing just as a number. It's not a number. When you don't have a place to send somebody, not because of funding, let me speak to that, it's not funding, it's the lack of availability of units already. So the reason why I'm here is not because I know Pacheco, it's because I know the importance of having affordable units in any city. And in my city, when I have the ability to help somebody with rental assistance, but I don't have a location to send them, it's troublesome. So for that reason, I'm here in favor of this project. I was reading online about some of the concerns, and after hearing the attorneys speaking to that, I think they did a phenomenal job taking into consideration what some of the residents, my fellow residents of Peabody, had some concern initially. So with that being addressed, I really hope that this board and the residents of the city of Peabody understand that having 15, 16 affordable units available for people of low income, it means a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Chair,
Sure.
to the speaker. If I could, well, thank you for that work you do. It sounds like it's very important. I guess my question is to you is moderate and low, and you kept referencing the low income. Is that where the need is, more in the low income as opposed to the moderate?
I think it is both. I think it's not a surprise that we have a lack of, it's not just anymore the lack of funding, it's the lack of availability of spaces, available spaces. So the need is both in the market rate rent, is in the low affordability, and I think Massachusetts is not the exception. I understand that this is an issue across the United States, but every year the number of housing insecurity cases and homelessness in the state of Massachusetts keep growing. Right. And again, it's not the lack of funding, it's the lack of spaces available where we can send people and paid even for the housing. So having 25% of those units available, I guarantee to you that those represent families that otherwise will not have a place to live. So it is important for us to see that number and make a connection that this is actual people and families that we might be assisting. And otherwise, they will not have a place to stay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Donald Viger. I live at 12 Crown and Shield Street, Peabody. I've been a resident of Peabody for about 20 years now, and I'm quite familiar with the area of which we're talking. I worked as a maintenance person for 12 Crown and Shield, 15 Crown and Shield, 16 Crown and Shield, and 50 Warren Street for over 15 years. so I know what the importance is of housing for everyone and for low market income. And as you see with the new project that just took place with the tannery apartments that were taken over by Wynn, and the beautification of the area, the maintenance and upkeep of the buildings and changing the environment for the people, and the availability for extra housing would be a great benefit for the community, for the people that are in need of affordable housing, as well as people who are on the moderate income. The project that Pat Tedesco is looking at is a warehouse, and changing it over to a housing project that would benefit, just as it did with the tannery, a beautification, an update, and safety of the area and the buildings. And so I just met Pat personally in the last several months, and Mr. Tedesco and I just became friends. I was familiar with his mom and things because she was also a resident with me at the Tannery Apartments. And I lived there for 18 years taking care of my mother, and I know the importance of this project. And I hope and you'll consider this project as a thing as moving forward for Peabody as well as for the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
How you doing? My name is Victor Molly. I've been a lifelong resident of Peabody at 5 Helen Drive. I'd just like to say I'm in favor of the project. Just in the past, the Tedesco properties have done a fantastic job with the reconstruction of many buildings in Peabody, and I think that it's to be known that a lot of residents do appreciate the reconstructions on buildings that could use it, and I just like to say I'm in favor.
Thank you.
My name is Jason Cruz. I live at 1 Main Street, apartment 309 in Peabody. So I personally know firsthand Tedesco Properties. I'm one of their tenants. And I've just came to really enjoy where I live and do really like the city of Peabody. So I just think that a project like this would give a lot more people the opportunity to live here and, you know, be part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
How you doing? Rob Stanziani, 4 Northdale Street, Peabody. My business is Stanzi's Ranch on 1 Main Street, and Mr. Tedesco is my landlord, and I just kind of want to talk as a tenant. He's been nothing but, you know, he's been the best landlord anyone could ask for. You know, he's always pushed our business, you know, for the best, and I'm in favor of the project, so just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Rob Pettigene, live 4 Ray Lane Ave, Peabody. I've known Pat for about a year, maybe 2 years. Really can't say anything bad about anything that Tedesco Properties has done in the city of Peabody. They did a phenomenal job 1 Main Street. I mean, it still continues as you come into the city, you see that building, and then it kind of changes from there. You hope that the preservation would go. He's done several buildings. I've seen several of his projects. He does everything to a higher standard. So in that regards, I know he'll do great things at Endicott Street. As you continue down Endicott Street, there's a lot of possibilities there. And I don't see anything better than putting a building like that, giving opportunities, as discussed earlier, even with a family that was here today, looking to try to extend a house on Tremont Street. This may be a perfect opportunity for them to remain in Peabody with a possibility of affordable housing, if that was something, as they were financially affected by COVID. But I am completely in favor for what Pat is doing on Endicott Street. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
I don't like talking. My name is Alexander Molly. I live at 21 Harrison Ave. I'm in favor of the project. I've lived here my whole life. I now have 3 sons that will do the same and grow up in the city, and I think that everything that Tedesco Properties has done in our city has only benefited all of us as a community, and I want my sons to grow up in a beautiful community just like this, so thank you.
That wasn't so hard. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Juliana Roberts. I live at 5 Helen Drive, and I'm in favor of the building. I agree with what everybody said. I think Tedesco Properties does great work and great things for the community, and I'm excited for it.
Thank you.
How you doing? I'm Edgar Poria. I live on 13 Jennifer Lane. I'm in favor for Mr. Tedesco. He's done a lot for the community and stuff. He's helped out. I'm looking forward in favor for this project to go forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Scott Borgman. I'm actually from Cincinnati, Ohio, but I live on 16 Jennifer Lane in Peabody. I've known Mr. Tedesco for about 3 years now. All I can say is when we moved up here, my wife is a biochemist, so we came up from Tampa. We were living there. We came up. We didn't know anybody here. We didn't know where to live. We lived in the Avalon Hotel for 2 weeks, which was scary. And we got a rental for $1,800 a month in Revere, which saved our life. It really did. And now we bought a house in Peabody. I think this is great, what he's doing. So.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Steven Sclavunas, 354 Broadway, Lynnfield, Massachusetts. I approve of the project because I sold a family home in Lynn for 3 generations, single-family big home, and they built 24 rental units, condos, and so like 48 people living on the property. So it's better than an idle home or an idle piece of property that's not being used, to use it for people that need it. So I approve of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is James McCarty. I reside at 72 Rear Central Street in Peabody. Previous to that, I resided for 15 years on 8 Noble Lane, which is across from the project on a 45-degree angle, which abuts the park. Going back 100 years with Mr. Osborne, where we used to get our football equipment when that was a factory there. We know the place was a dump half the time. I lived with a lot of the junk there, and I think it's a good project. I'm an electrical contractor in the city of Peabody. I've been in business for 53 years, and I've dealt with the inspectors. I've done a tremendous amount of work with Pat Tedesco and his family, and when he does a job, it's done right. It will definitely benefit the neighborhood. It'll benefit the city. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to speak in favor? All right, here we go. Anybody to speak in opposition? Please make a line. Oh. Anybody that would like to view all the drawings, now's the time. Don't wait. You have 5 minutes.
Just going to do a 2-minute warning here, everyone.
Hope you all got a chance to look at what you...
My name's Patricia Roberti, and I live at 13 Rita Road. I'm not from the neighborhood. I just want to say I grew up in the city of Peabody, and I've worked for the past 29 years in the city of Salem. I can get to Boston faster than I can get down Lowell Street to get to my job and to get home in the afternoon. The impact that King Street's going to have on the traffic is bad enough, but when you add this in, I am not, for the record, I am not against affordable housing. We need it desperately. It's just not, it's not the space for it. It's just, we need to spread it out a little bit more. To sit in the traffic, I'm telling you, it's, at the end of the day, I don't want to go home. I honestly don't want to go home because there's no fast way to get there. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maria Sena Rosales, and I am the neighbor of 46 Endicott Street. And I am completely against this project for the fact that it not only affects the neighborhood, but it affects me personally. When I looked at the design, it looks like the cars will be coming in and out near to my house. That's a lot of smoke. That's a lot of burnt oil that I'm going to be breathing in, that my family is going to be breathing in. It's not healthy, it's not safe. Also, all of the traffic, all of the congestion, all of the windows looking at my backyard constantly. I will not have privacy. I will no longer be able to sit in my backyard and spend a safe time with my family because I will constantly feel that people are looking at me. I am not for this project. This project is not for the community. This is not a smart choice. You are not thinking about the people on Endicott Street. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really not necessary.
I just want for the record, just hold on for a second. Councilor Manning, if you have something to say, please come to the podium to say it. This is the second time on different proposals where you have clapped from the back of the room where you are right now, where the benefit of Peabody Access Television and the benefit of YouTube and Facebook Live do not get to see you. If you have something to say or you want to support your constituents, which is perfectly fine, then please do so at the podium where you can have your name and address for the record and where the public can actually see you.
My name is Joyce Johnson. I live at 47 Endicott Street. I've lived in that house for 74 years, and for the last 2 years, I've been sitting on my porch because my sister and brother-in-law have been very sick, so I've been taking them outside. And for the last 2 years, all we've seen is stopped traffic. And if you put that entrance right near my house, it's completely stopped now half the time. And they fly down my street. I won't allow my granddaughter to ride her bike on my street. All kids have a chance to ride their bikes. We can't. My neighbor doesn't let her kids ride her bike. They fly down my street. So if you put all these more cars in, I don't know what the traffic will be. And I worked in that, my relatives own the shop. I worked across the street. I'd walk across the street. Nobody would let me by to walk so I could cross that street. I'd count cars, 11, 15. This is at 7:45 in the morning. Not one person would let me walk across the street. So I am opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Steve Klein. I reside at 35 Warren Street. And first of all, I'd like to say it's nice to see that Mr. Tedesco has a lot of neighbors, friends, and employees, but they're not going to live in the shadow of this monstrosity of a building. We will in the neighborhood. And I am totally in opposition to the proposed development of 4042 Endicott Street in its present form, even though they have brought it, as the chairperson said, they have made some concessions concerning the amount of units. As I alluded to at the last meeting, I have a rather lengthy list of concerns about this proposal, but again, due to time constraints, I'll only address a few at each meeting. Tonight, I will touch on the density, the adjacent city-owned property, and an overview of the entire neighborhood. The developer is looking to construct 68, which is now 63, 62, wrote it earlier, on just 31,344 square feet. That would make the development the densest, or maybe now one of the densest developments in the entire city. I don't even know how they intend to demolish the existing buildings and construct a new 6-story structure without infringing on city-owned property. They intend to build on over 90% of the parcel in question, leaving no area to stage construction equipment or even for parking for workers. The major abutter to this parcel is open space owned by the city of Peabody. The mayor's office and the Office of City Planning and Development have already submitted letters to this board opposing this proposal, and the developer should certainly not be allowed in any way to compromise the integrity of the city-owned property. As mentioned last month, the city solicitor should be contacted to get their opinion, one, on how to protect the city-owned property, two, the opinions on the 14-foot right-of-way, which they have to transgress the city-owned property and back, and an opinion on transgressing the school department property, as this is necessary to not only protect the neighborhood, but also to protect a valued asset owned by all the citizens of the city of Peabody. The city solicitor should then appear at a future meeting so as to be available to answer questions concerning all aspects of this situation and to explain how to proceed on these matters. Now, a quick overview of the neighborhood. The neighborhood consists of 1 and 2 family and homes and 1 family condominiums, and guess what else? Affordable housing. Presently, we have 3 senior citizen developments in Wilson Square, the approved 133-unit development at King Street, and the former tannery being the largest affordable housing complex in the city. The neighborhood already has as much affordable housing as the rest of the city combined. Attorney Panos keeps harping that affordable housing is needed in the city. The reality is the city of Peabody has already met its 10% threshold. The city currently has approved 133-unit proposal at King Street, an approved 116-unit proposal on Farm Avenue, 2 proposals for over 60 units each on Prospect Street, some 35 proposed units at the mill on Pulaski Street, and in conversations currently going on concerning over 200 units proposed at Wyona Street, and another proposal for another 40B at Wallace Street. The last thing this neighborhood is in need of is more affordable housing, and that also goes for the entire city. I would like to close with a couple of open questions, observations, and rebuttals to comments made at last month's meeting, as I was unable to do so because of the quick gavel to continue the meeting to this evening. For various reasons, I have in the past watched numerous ZBA meetings. I have to commend the board in that it always is very thorough when reviewing all applications and asking all appropriate questions pertaining to each application. Applicants must answer all questions and have all documents pertaining to their application in order. Now I'll visit last month's meeting. At that meeting, renderings of the proposed development and copies of revised plans were not available. They are available now, so that's been taken care of. At the meeting, the board chairperson questioned a peer review individual concerning parking in front of the proposed building. He alluded to some technical issues and turned it over to Attorney Panos to answer. He, in turn, called on the project engineer, who said something could be done to make it look appropriate. We had the entire development team ask a simple parking question when no one was able to answer, but rather the answer was by myself, a layperson from the neighborhood. I don't know about the members of the board, but the situation both surprised me and scared me. I believe that Tedesco should make available renderings of any 6-story structures he has erected from the ground up, so it's to prove his competency. At the last meeting, I mentioned some of the memos sent to the City Council by the various city boards and departments, although they were concerning the original special permit, they would still hold true for the present proposal, as both proposals are for multi-story dwellings on the same parcel by the same developer. All of the concerns, requests, and requirements of the fire department, the police department, the Board of Health, the Conservation Commission, the DPW, the Office of Planning and Development, and the city solicitor will have to be met prior to the approval of the application. Also at the last meeting, board member Mr. Osborne asked Attorney Panos a question concerning density. Attorney Panos then responded by refusing to answer the question and refusing to have any further discussion on the subject. He further added that, in his opinion, it wasn't the time or the place to discuss density. Now, this is the legal representative for the developer attempting to secure approval for the proposal, and he is refusing to answer a direct question by a board member. As I have already stated, I have watched numerous ZBA meetings in the past, and I have never seen any applicant or representative respond in this manner. I will close my statement by saying I'm not the only person of the same opinions. Last week, I had the opportunity to have a face-to-face discussion concerning this 40B proposal with the Governor of the Commonwealth, the Honorable Charlie Baker. He actually knew more about the city than I had expected. When I mentioned the 40B, he immediately thought I was referring to the King Street proposal, but I explained it was about another proposal down the street. I went on to explain that the developer had obtained a special permit by questionable procedures, and after being sued by the abutters, gave up his special permit for 38 units and applied for a 40B with 86 units. The governor replied, "What? That is unbelievable." He asked me the developer's name and said he didn't know of him. I said he was a small local developer. The governor then said, "Wait a minute. This developer gets a special permit, then turns it in and applies for a 40B, doubling the number of units, and then has the nerve to do all this in the same town where he resides. Unbelievable." He did say he would be looking into this matter, so I guess I'm not the only one who finds the circumstances surrounding this proposal pretty unique and disturbing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Joe Mello. I reside at 45 rear Endicott Street, which is directly across from the property. I had an opportunity to speak with Pat on a couple of opportunities, and I know his first proposal faced a little opposition. And I know we had a Zoom meeting, and I had just requested if he could bring it down the floor. I don't begrudge anybody to make a living. He owns the property. He should be able to build, a decent, building of, a reasonable size. Then he kind of assured me that, yeah, we're going to try to do the right thing for the neighborhood. And originally it was in 32 or 34 units. Now it's doubled. The units have doubled. And I just, for me, the 40B process is not a level playing field. The state seems to hold all the cards, and the cities and municipalities seem to have their hands tied when it comes to fighting these developers for overbuilding. It's just, for me, you got King Street going on. You've got this project, they're probably 1,000 yards apart. Now, that little neighborhood down there and all those surrounding neighborhoods are going to be affected. The quality of life down there is going to diminish. Our property values may change, who knows? But safety and quality of life, I just thought, I thought Pat would have a little more compassion, a little more feeling towards the neighborhood. For me, it's just too much. It's just, you've doubled the numbers of units, the traffic, the cars. Now the entrance is from Endicott Street. Previous proposal was coming in from the rear. You got cars coming in and out of that street. I'm directly across the street. I just think it's, if he could go back to the drawing board, I know he has a lot of money invested here, and with his original proposal, he's been losing money. I understand that. But I wish you could do something a little more in, in context with the neighborhood. It's just with King Street going on and now this proposal, I just think it's gonna be tough on the neighborhood. It's gonna be tough on the neighborhood and the the infrastructure, the roads, traffic lights, whatever it may be. I know my wife and I are strongly opposed to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Else?
Hi, my name is Patricia Rennick, and I live directly across the street too. Joe lives 2 houses down from me, and we have tried to work with this developer with, when he first came out with the units. I mean, we tried to have a meeting. We really only wanted it to go down to, the 3 floors, 32 units, maybe 25, but we would have all agreed on 32. And we just think that this is just kind of like a spiteful move because Joe's in construction, we were in construction. We know there's plenty of money to be made if it was a 32-unit, 3-story site. He did get the house next door. He already sold it to one of the other speakers that were here tonight. So he's already on his way to profit. And we just know density is the biggest problem here. It is what is causing all the problems. It's taken away our stars, our moon, our morning sunlight. It's taken away the safety of our children and our grandchildren. It's going to make our schools overcrowded because that's 68 more families and people aren't having just 1 kid anymore. So everything is going to be affected. The water, the traffic, the accidents, the safety. We're really just pleading for him to think of what's best for the neighborhood. He said he had pride in Peabody. We all really have pride in Peabody. We love living in Peabody. We love raising our families in Peabody. And we bought in an R1 district because that's what we wanted. We didn't want to have a building that's on Revere Beach Parkway or downtown Lynn. We chose to buy these houses and to improve them and to pay the taxes on them because it was the type of neighborhood we lived in. We knew the factories were there before. We never had a problem with them. They were so good with all the neighbors. They had 12 parking spots. We didn't worry about the traffic. One of the neighbors that spoke tonight, she worked there. Her and 3 or 4 other people, they walked to work or they carpooled because they didn't want the extra traffic in the neighborhood or the extra parking on the street. So all we're asking is please try to be kind and have a little empathy for everybody that lives in the neighborhood, that pays taxes, lives there, and really has pride in Peabody. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name's Stephanie Peach. I live at 19 Margin Terrace in Peabody. I'll start by saying I wasn't planning to speak tonight, so if my thoughts are a little all over the place, I've just been taking notes throughout the meeting. I'm here today to speak in support of the neighbors on Endicott Street. I've lived in Peabody my entire life. I grew up in South Peabody and now have moved over into the East End. We are the most congested part of the city. In order to get my kids to South Peabody, that's the road I take. I go up Pulaski, I go down Endicott, I go down King, and I make my way down to Washington Street all the way to Linfield Street. If I don't hit that road at the right time, and by right time I mean the time that's not when most people are traveling, I leave early to get my kids to where they need to be so that I can be back to work on time, and I leave late to pick them up so that I don't take 45 minutes to get home from South Peabody. And it's only worse now in October with the Salem traffic. It takes me at least 4 light cycles to get through Lowell Street from Endicott up to King. And with the other housing proposal that's been approved by this board, that's only going to get worse from the King Street side. Adding another large proposal of housing in this neighborhood is a burden. It does not fit with the neighborhood. This is, 2-story, 3-story, maybe at max houses on this street. It historically has been that. Yes, the storage unit, the factory that's there is a blight on the neighborhood and something should be there. And I thought the original proposal was something that maybe we could work with and live with. having a 6-story building, and I appreciate the developer taking down half that, the top floor to maybe alleviate some of that, it's still too much. 40B is a complicated process. We all know that. As your average citizen, we don't understand all the rules and processes that go into 40B. But tonight we saw neighbors get denied garages because they're too big. The last month I heard a neighbor speak about having to adjust her addition by 2 feet because it was too big, and she abuts this property directly. I understand there are different rules because this is 40B. I'd like to go on record saying I don't agree that there are different rules, that private property owners cannot make reasonable adjustments to their homes and are left, to our zoning laws and to the fate of this board to be able to do certain things like that. But then at the same time, they'll have to turn around and live next to a 6-story building. Parking on this street, as it stands now, is absurd. If there are any cars on this street, you have to cross the double yellow line to get down Endicott Street. And I know that, Madam Chair, you said that at the last meeting. That was an observation that you had. I would like to see something in this project built to address that, not just in front of this project, but we need to address that on the street as a whole. I don't know if that's appropriate for the project developer, but we also have Farnham Park right there. And if you've ever driven down that street when there's a Little League game going, the entire street, there are cars parked on the entire street, down to Warren Street. It is a very congested area, and I know the developer proposed putting some cutouts so the parking is further into the sidewalk, so you have those, for deliveries and such, which is a great idea. But then when we have these curb cuts, where are the Little League kids gonna park? We don't have parking at that park. It's very minimal, which is why everyone parks on the street. That's a short window of time for neighbors to deal with people parking on the street, but adding another 68 apartments, obviously, I have people come over my house and they park in the street because they don't fit in my driveway. I don't live in a very congested neighborhood, so where are the people coming to visit these people going to park? They're going to park on the street, they're going to park on Noble, they're going to park on Endicott, and then what? We're back to crossing the yellow line because the street's too congested. Talking during the recess, looking at the plans, there's a back egress. I don't have a solid answer on what that's to be used for, but given the traffic on Endicott Street, if the residents of this development have the ability to cut back through and go through Berry Street, they will, because the traffic on Endicott Street is terrible. That's a very even more congested neighborhood if you've ever been back there. The roads are very narrow. There are several multifamily homes that are close together. There are a lot of kids that live there. And it's, right now, traditionally, a pretty quiet neighborhood as far as traffic. So I know that I don't like to sit in the traffic on Endicott Street, so I get down to Warren and I cut through because I know the back roads. These residents will soon learn those back roads as well. So in regards to that egress, if we could address something with that so that it's only for emergency use, I think that would at least benefit the neighbors in the rear of this development. Just looking at other things I said. And in regards to the people that came here to speak in support of this, earlier tonight, one person opposed a project, and we continued that because the board wasn't going to vote in favor of it. One neighbor opposed that project. You've had several neighbors over the course of this entire hearing come and speak in opposition of this, neighbors who actually live in this area, who live on this street, I drive this street every day, live down the street. We live here. This is going to directly impact us forever. This isn't a temporary thing. Once these 62 units are there, they'll be filled, and they'll be filled continuously. 2/3 of the people that spoke in favor tonight do not live in this area of town, if they live in Peabody at all. So that's something I urge the board to consider. I know that you're restricted in what you can do because it's 40B. I ask that you can listen to these neighbors, and whatever that you can do to decrease the scope and size of this project, as it is incredibly dense and does not fit the character of this R1A neighborhood. That you do take those actions, you do listen to these residents, because we are the ones that have to live with it. We are the ones that have to deal with the traffic. The traffic is already terrible. And I know that that's something, the traffic study was just done, and we're going to talk about traffic next month. Also know that this process is incredibly long and drawn out, and it's incredibly hard to ask residents to come here month after month. And I know that that's the process, but if we can just give the residents some sort of thought into that we're coming here and maybe the first meeting they spoke about traffic, but they're not able to make the next meeting where we're going to actually speak about traffic. I hope that you're keeping their comments from previous meetings in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Donna Klein, and I reside at 35 Warren Street. All set? All right. First of all, I would like to thank whoever was responsible for bringing the renderings tonight, because we really didn't have a clue as to what it would even look like. And it's given us a lot to think about as far as the size and the parking and the coming and going of the people that will be living there. One thing that really how can I say this, was really difficult for me to listen to tonight was the fact that I got the impression, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we are against affordable housing. That's not the case at all. We are surrounded by affordable housing. We love the people in affordable housing. We're a small, genuine, heartfelt neighborhood, and we care for one another. As Tricia Rennick said one week, we're out there shoveling for one another. If anybody needs anything, we're there right away. We're watching each other's children, grandchildren. We're a tight group. I guess for me tonight, it opened my eyes to the fact that I love every single one of these people, every single one of them, every one of my neighbors. The people that came up tonight live in the neighborhood. The people that came for Mr. Tedesco, and God bless Mr. Tedesco, I understand he's done a lot in the city, but to call upon your friends and employees and some people that don't even live in the city, that to me just rubs me the wrong way. My primary concern, as I stated the last time I was here, is in regards to the safety and the quality of life for the people in the neighborhood. Stephanie, you took a lot of what I had to say, thank you, because obviously I didn't bring any notes with me this evening. I had no intentions to speak, but I afterwards, after giving it some thought, wanted to speak from the heart. Once again, though, it does perplex me that we went from originally with a special permit having 38 or 42 residences to having a 40B with 68, correct me now, it's 64, 62. That, for me, is just not that much of a decrease. So, in closing, thank you for listening to me. I would like to know from somebody how we can actually get the copies of the plans and get them out to our neighbors to see genuinely, how they do feel about it. So if someone could just kind of fill me in on that process, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
You can get all of those? You can. Right. You just get a hold of Carla McGrath tomorrow, and you can tell her what you want. Anybody else? Mr. Panos.
Me. Jason Panos, practicing law at 246 Andover Street, for the record. I'll be very brief. There were a couple of comments that stuck out with me. One was that we're not willing to discuss density. Well, I think tonight we disproved that entirely by presenting revised plans at significant expense and effort. The second repetitive concern, and we believe it's important to address, is traffic. And we will, rest assured, be presenting a full traffic report at the next hearing. We had some peer review come back from the city's peer reviewers, and we are in the process of addressing those peer reviewers to the peer review comments to the satisfaction of and to the level required of the comments, and that too takes significant time and effort. So we will be back addressing traffic concerns, and we would ask that any comments with regard to traffic, not necessarily the comments, because we invite those. Any constructive comments can only potentially help us and assist us in making this plan even better. However, we're not there yet, and we will be there, rest assured, next month. We addressed an element of traffic tonight with the parking, and obviously took that to heart by exceeding actually the peer review comments, that we provide one space per bedroom. We provide more than one space per bedroom now. We're at 1.5 spaces per unit. That's only one element of the whole traffic package. There are other issues that we will be addressing substantively. Those issues will include adding ADA accessible cuts and crosswalks at certain recommended locations. We'll be addressing traffic counts and how traffic moves in and out of the site, that type of thing, but we're just not ready to discuss that tonight. We as a development team aren't ready to discuss that tonight. We'd be cheating you if we even attempted to do so. We will be prepared next month to do so, and at least that's what our traffic consultant is telling us. So with that, we're very happy. We are listening to the comments that are being made. I think tonight's presentation is an indication of that. And we're going to continue to listen to the extent that they have, those comments and concerns have substantive impacts on how we can better this proposal. That's all.
Okay, well, that's all for this, but we need, Jason, you to ask for and submit in writing an extension request.
Yes, because the 180 days is up at the end of this month, right? So we, if it pleases the board, will entertain an extension request with a continuance of that 180 days for another month.
To the chair? Please, I think we should probably ask for a little bit more. We still have not heard from police, fire, or some of the department heads.
Sure. Yeah. The reason why I suggested a month, we're not adverse to pushing it beyond that. It's just I'd like to do it month by month so that we can monitor the progress of how we're moving. So if by next month we're not ready, then we'll have the discussion again, if that pleases
So
the
you-
board.
you're
Because
okay
I'd like to keep it at time certain, date certain, rather than try to hit this nebulous target that we probably won't meet.
When's our next meeting?
Is
November
that
15th.
November 15th, I think?
One after that. I understand, Attorney Panos, why you want to do it month by month. I just think rather than having to wait at the next meeting and then say, okay, let's do it again and let's do it again, and I don't see the harm in pushing it out till after our December 20th meeting. You've been on top of your people, it seems like. So I feel like they'll come prepared regardless of whether they have another month or not now.
So December 31st?
So you'll also put that in writing to Carla?
Yeah.
All right, so that's good. All right, anything else? All right, then. Yep. You want to come back to the podium?
I just wanted to say that Attorney Panos just, I think, kind of gave the impression that parking has been taken care of. It hasn't by any means. But we'll just work on it along with the traffic at the next meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess that is it.
If I could, Madam Chair?
Yes, go
I
ahead.
just have a couple comments to make. First and foremost, I listened to everything that the applicant had to present tonight. I think it's great that they did reduce the size of the project. However, I got to admit that I still have my doubts as to whether that reduction is really keeping in the spirit of working or negotiating with the board and the neighborhood. So if I could just reference your own approval letter from Mass Housing, if I could. So where it says, based on Mass Housing site and design review, and considering feedback received from the municipality, the following issues should be addressed in the application to the ZBA, and the applicant should be prepared to explore them and more fully during the public hearing process. That includes building construction, stormwater, which I think is good, management, wastewater, hazardous waste safety, and your geo report says that even though there's been nothing found on the site, there is concern under one of the buildings that needs to be properly managed when you're excavating that site. And I think it would be important to let us know how you're going to manage that construction underneath that site. All right. The applicant should be prepared to respond to community relative to the potential of off-street traffic impacts. Okay? And hopefully that will be addressed in your report in the upcoming months. But not just regular parking, but it's specific in off-site traffic impacts. All right, and like I said earlier, that the applicant should be prepared to discuss the concerns raised by the municipality regarding the proposed size, scale, architectural style, and pedestrian access to the proposed multifamily building. So I think we're probably going down the right road, but if we've traveled far enough down that road, I don't know. I would like to see you, when you take a look at everything as a whole, as the peer review comes in, to look at it and say, well, at least give it some consideration. Because like you said, I agree with you 100%. We cannot condition density. We just can't do it. But it does say in the handbook, we can discuss it. And I think that's where we can negotiate for it. So maybe that's a good starting point. Thank you.
Absolutely. If I could just answer that. I mean, the good news through the peer review process is out of the 4 items that the city has decided to really look at carefully. Well, 5 actually. The water connection, the sewer, wastewater. Those 2 items are off the table now. We've addressed those. We've addressed the concerns of the city. We have also addressed, there was a comment made earlier with regard to input regarding conservation. You got conservation. We've addressed the issues with regard to conservation. There aren't any, which is great, thank God. We've addressed the 21E issues, and I'll take a look at the 21E report to make sure there aren't any residual issues, but there will be in removing the building and operations and maintenance plan that will be pretty much administered through Al Talarico when we're at that, the building commissioner, when we're at that point. And he will hire additional peer review, not the 40B peer review. He's going to hire an outside consultant to look at this as he goes through the building permit set. So what are we left with? We're left with a significant issue regarding traffic, which I indicated we're going to address, which will also, as you read the peer review memo that came in from World Tech, will address off-site impacts. It must. And as a matter of fact, I think a couple of the comments specifically address pedestrian access at the Warren Street intersection and how that's better accommodated. So we will respond to that. We have to. And the other issue that's outstanding, although I understand it's pretty close to being reconciled, is stormwater and how that gets addressed. That cannot be addressed definitively until we actually remove the building, but it's something that we must address. And it's a redevelopment project, so we have a little more wiggle room in that regard, which is good for us, and I think it's good for everyone, because right now the site is 100% impervious. In other words, every bit of rainwater that hits that site flows off that site in sheets in all different directions. We will be managing some level of stormwater that is not being managed at all right now. So at that level, it will be a better project for the neighborhood because we will be addressing those concerns. So yes, hey, look, those are the rules of the road. They're your rules in that handbook, they're my rules. I take them to heart. I'm perfectly willing to have a conversation on any element of that, any chapter, any paragraph of that. I take it to heart, and I try to present, do these presentations based on that. So happy to continue to engage this process with you guys, without a doubt, and I appreciate the indulgences you give us and the back and forth. And as I said, we accept peer review. We accept some of the comments that come in, even from the opponents of the project, and we look at them constructively. And if it makes sense, we're more than happy to implement some of these comments if we think it makes the project better. We've demonstrated that. We're going to continue to demonstrate that. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the next meeting, regular meeting, is November 15th. This board will be meeting again November 1st. Please put that down, November 1st. We have a special
that's
meeting.
right. Yeah.
You all have in your packet the draft of the rules. Please look them over. If you have any questions or comments, we will be adopting this next month. Next month, we'll also be going over the 2022 dates. And if there isn't anything else at this point, we need a motion to continue 40 to 42 Endicott Street to November 15th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.